everybody. Happy Tuesday morning.
Hello.
It's springtime and Easter is right around the corner.
It is. And
Yes.
it is theoretically springtime. We had snow
Mhm.
here this week.
Well, we have sunshine every day here in Arizona.
Yeah,
So
I know. I recall. I'm so jealous. We had snow, so I feel like it's not spring yet. In fact, I was like, oh my gosh, it's Easter. And I'm like so thrown off because there's snow on the ground. So, but
yes.
it's okay. It's just temporary, right?
Yep. Well, most things are temporary. So let's talk about our topic today, Cari, is about surrounding yourself with the right people. And really, the topic is even deeper than that. It's you are who you surround yourself with. And this is actually an extension to what we were talking about last week, which was hiring the right people in your business. And we were talking about when do you know to hire somebody. But I think that this leads in, it's a great segue into you are who you surround yourself with and what can happen when you're not in the right environment. That means if you're in admin support, if you're a director of operations, if you're a leader within your own team right now, maybe you're the CEO of a team, or maybe you're just an agent on a team. I shouldn't say just an agent because agents are more than just a just.
Yes.
If you are an agent on the team, I think this applies to everyone, not just within real estate, but honestly within all of corporate America too.
Yeah.
When you're on or part of a team
Mm-hmm.
and you feel like you can contribute more or give more or do more, or the universe is just calling you to show up in a bigger light, why aren't we taking it? What is holding us back? And a lot of time it's because who we're surrounded with. So, Cari, I think I'll let you take the lead today. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions and get your insight. But start us off with what does it look like for somebody who is maybe starting to question, like, am I surrounding myself with the right people? How do you know, Cari?
Yeah. Well, I think that the reality is, and you said this so well just a minute ago, like you are being called to like show up every day in your greatness. And if you don't feel like you can do that, if there's some limitations put on your business and your life, then that is the first sign. And I think, we talked about how sometimes we don't realize it because we get comfortable and we're okay staying in the space that we're in, doing what we're doing. We get used to maybe playing a little bit small. Maybe we've asked to contribute more. Maybe we've alluded to wanting to bring forth some of our strengths. And, there's been, okay, yeah, we'll do that later, or let's talk about that at another time, or, we're not quite ready for that. And so, after a period of time, we become conditioned if we ask for things and we constantly get pushed away from it to stop asking. And pretty soon we don't even realize we're not asking anymore. And we're just staying comfortable in this space that we're in. I think a lot of people really find themselves in that situation in teams and in businesses. And after a period of time, they don't even realize that they're not pushing for more any longer. It's just one of those things that it hasn't happened. The carrot's been kind of dangled and nothing ever comes to fruition. And so we just stop asking. But the real question is when we stop asking and we even probably start having some feelings again about like, man, I feel like there's something more I could or should be doing.
Yeah.
Why don't we just listen to that and go do something different? And you had some great thoughts on that because that's just a really fascinating part of our human behavior, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's about, like you said, we become conditioned as humans to stop asking when we've been rejected so many times, or when we feel that we can contribute at a greater capacity and it's just continuously turned down over and over again, or when you show up and you ask for more and your leader says something along the lines of, oh yeah, that's a great idea, we're working on that. And again, like you said, it's the carrot, being dangled on the stick in front of you, and that you keep waiting for it and waiting for it. And maybe there's a little bit of movement, but how long do you actually wait until, you kind of sit back down and you think, okay, well, this is not going to happen. And a lot of times, I think what happens is we don't leave these situations because we are married to the ship rather than the relation. So when you think of a relationship, there should be a contribution on both sides. your leader should be pouring into you just as much as you're pouring into them. And when you don't see that happening, I think that that's one of the first signs that maybe this is not the right place for you. Here's the amazing thing, Carrie. We're all called to lead an amazing and an incredible life, to
Yeah.
pour into other people, to contribute. That's actually what brings spiritual growth about, right?
Yeah.
Is contributing to other people. When you're when you're on a team and that's not happening for you, I think we need to step back and reevaluate, but we're fearful, right? We're
Yeah.
fearful because if we leave, there's there's retaliation that could happen to you. What are your friends going to say? What's your partner or your family going to say? You know,
Mhm.
we're afraid that if we step out, what happens if we're not successful? What happens if we don't have the
Mhm.
leverage that our team was providing? And oh my gosh, now we have to be a solo agent, right? There's
Mhm.
all these things. And so our fear of all this
Mhm.
uncertainty, it keeps us stagnant. It
Mhm.
prevents us from growing. I almost envision this, Carrie, as like we're a tree,
Mhm.
and every time that we surround ourselves with the story of fear, we're like
Yeah.
surrounding ourselves with like barbed wire. And how can
Yeah.
you possibly grow and flourish if we're
Mm.
always surrounded by something that's just holding us back, these limiting
Mm.
beliefs, or in this case, people who are limiting us, right?
It's so interesting because, people are probably the number one thing that limits us. And yet that's what we are the most fearful of,
Mm-hmm.
um, changing or walking away from, feeling like we're rejecting them and we feel bad, or that if we leave them, they're going to reject us. And this
Yeah.
relationship was so important to us. But was it the relationship, or was it the ship that they provided? And did we just get comfortable and
Mm-hmm.
used to that? And I think when I have a lot of conversations with people, it really does end up being the latter of that. Not that they don't like this person, because they really
Right.
do. Not that they're not grateful for the person and the opportunity that has been, part of their life for a period of time. And I think that in our mind, we think that that has to be completely rejected if we leave. And it's like, it really honestly doesn't have to be. That relationship served a purpose. We all
Yes.
hear all the time that there are people that come into our lives at different parts of our lives and times in our lives. And sometimes, and most of the time, just for seasons, for a reason. But that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean for the rest of our lives, because we change, they change, goals change. And no longer maybe are we in alignment, and we have to be okay with that. We have to be true to ourselves. There was something that I used to say to people, because I'd have people literally come to me in the agent attraction process, and they wanted so badly to move to a new opportunity, and they wanted so badly to come and be part of our culture, and to coach with me and just have something new and fresh. And they did, because they felt very stagnant, they felt very stuck, and they felt very like they weren't living in their greatness at
Right.
all. And by the way, you're dying a little bit inside every day that you continue to live that way, whether you know it or not. And it does leak into your relationships personally, into your parenting, into your health and wellness. And so we could talk about that forever, but there are very, very large ramifications when you choose to stay in a situation that doesn't allow you to grow, doesn't allow you to be who you were meant to be. And really, even if it's slowly but surely, continue to move forward into the greatness and into the person that you were meant to be on this earth. So, I think that the conversation I would always have would be around loyalty, Haley. And we
Mm-hmm.
talked about that, because that's a really strong personality and behavioral trait. And people are very proud of being a loyal person, as
Right.
they should be. As they should be. But what would happen is they would come in and they would display how much they wanted and needed this change. And yet the one thing that was holding them back was the relationship, or they thought the relationship that they had in that loyalty. And they felt so bad leaving that past or current leader that would then be their past leader. And the one thing that I would say that would almost always elicit an emotional reaction, and I didn't do it to create pain, I did it to create awareness. Because
Mm-hmm.
at some point, somebody has to break you out of that thinking, because that's a pattern that does not serve you anymore. Because
Right.
if that person was really in a relationship with you, they would understand that you needed a change to be able to go live in your greatness, and they would be okay with it. If
Mm-hmm.
they aren't okay with it, was it really a relationship that was two-sided? And if they weren't providing you your ability to be the person you could be, was it really the relationship you needed, right? So those were the two questions, but I would always ask the question of, when is it time for you to start being loyal to you and your family instead of your broker or your team leader? Because loyalty is a very, very great thing, but it is detrimenting all of these other things, and you are allowing it to. So where do you really think you should be loyal here?
Right.
Where do you really owe it to? Who do you really owe it to? Is it them? It's not me, the person that you're thinking of partnering with. I don't think it's them. I think it's yourself, and I think it's your family, and I think it's your future, you know?
Right.
And so I think sometimes we just get so wrapped up in this thinking that it's not even a reality. And we need to stop for a minute, take a look at, how is this leaking into everything? And that's when I think people start to make a decision. So you ask the question, how do we know when we should and when we're ready to? If it is robbing you of joy, if it is causing excessive stress or anxiety or frustration, I promise you that it is showing up in all of these different areas of your life. And I have to ask you if you are going to, at some point, regret the fact that you didn't make a change sooner, because and these other areas in your life are becoming a lot worse. And now you've got to go figure out how to repair those too. Because anybody who is limited in their ability to be the person that they were meant to be cannot compartmentalize that into, you know, from work into these other areas. And both you and I, Haley, have had an experience like that.
Yes, we both have. And I think that that's a great question. It's a paradox, you know, when people claim to be so loyal. And so if you're so loyal to this one individual or this one team or this one organization or company, why can't you hold that same loyalty for yourself? Because are they just as loyal to you?
Yeah.
If they were, then maybe you wouldn't be having these feelings.
Yeah.
And so how are they allowing you to pour into them as they're pouring into you, right? You wouldn't be having these questions or these inner thoughts. Your intuition showing up and telling you, hey, there's something not right here. If there wasn't something going on. Now, I think it's just important to point out, when somebody starts questioning these things, that's just being self-aware. It's absolutely just being self-aware. And I think it's just so important to listen to that intuition.
Yeah.
So
as we wrap up, what happens when you leave a position or a situation, an experience or an environment like that, and you actually find a situation or an environment that is surrounding you with the right people, the right energy, the right opportunity, and that are super aligned? What have you noticed, and how does it change just you as a human being and your life and your outlook and everything like that? And I'll add a couple of things, but I think this is what's on the other side of fear, right?
Yes. So here's the thing. Let's just call it what it is. When the universe is calling you to step into your greatness, you absolutely need to do that. And I know it's terrifying. It's terrifying because there's all this uncertainty, like I said, and we're allowing the story of fear to control us. When you make the decision that you will not allow fear to control you any longer, you open up the door and you step into what your power is. You step into your greatness, and imagine all of the people now that you can impact in this life when you start stepping up and living to your full potential. That's what that you are like, releasing those barbed wires, you're releasing those chains, and you're saying, I am ready. I'm ready to step up, no matter how fearful it can be, because that's what courage is. That's what being brave is. It's knowing that it's going to be fearful, but you're going to do it anyways. And you're going to be uncomfortable for the first 30, 60, 90 days. But when you find other people who you are aligned with, who empower you, who you can pour into, every day you wake up and you just feel lighter. You just know. And I was telling you this earlier, Cari, it's like every single day I have these really amazing and powerful conversations with people, and I get off the phone and I think, like, wow, she impacted me so much, or he impacted me so much. And I think that we both impacted each other. Like, what a gift. What a gift.
And it's a job that we get to have, which is crazy.
And this is the career choice that we've made, is to have these fierce conversations with people that we know that we can integrate reality without the fear of retaliation, without the fear of somebody telling us, no, you're not ready for that, or no, you can't do that, or who's going to want to do that with you? We don't have to hear those limiting projected things onto us any longer, because we partner with people who, they don't tell us no. They might just ask us, okay, as leaders should, how does that look for you? What kind of person do you need to be in order to achieve that? Right? They're
Yes.
asking powerful questions. They're paving the road for us, and they're showing us, this is the path to take. It's going to be scary. I'm not the hero here. You are, but I can definitely be your guide as we, conquer this
Navigate
terrain
this.
together. Yeah, absolutely. And so
Yeah.
that's what happens, is when you're in a place where there's equal contribution, where there's no longer fear holding us back. And when you have a leader who can be vulnerable and
Yeah.
honest and authentic, and they can have integrity, I mean, that's, to me, would be the ideal work environment. That's where I want to live every day, and that's
Yeah.
where I know I can thrive.
Yeah. Well, what happens is when you don't have other people putting limits on you, look, we all put enough limits on ourselves,
Yeah.
whether we try to or not. And so when we've got other people doing it too, it just isn't a very exciting situation to be in. We already do it to ourselves. So let's surround ourselves with people who say, why not go for that? Try it. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Let's fail forward. Let's give it our best shot. Let's do whatever it is we feel we should be doing today, because we probably feel like we should be doing it for a reason. And, as you and I started working together, that's really what we've done, is every day, just like, okay, it looks like there's a need for this. Let's go and let's find the opportunity to serve people. Let's try it. Let's not be afraid of it. And what happens is you wake up every day excited to be able to push yourself to your limits to see, what can I achieve?
Yeah.
And what we're finding is that we can achieve a lot more in a pretty short period of time than we thought we could.
Yeah.
And that the sky really is the limit. But that's when you wake up with excitement. That's when you break down the fear. That's when you push forward and you start to explore more about yourself, your strengths, your weaknesses, and that you can really have an opportunity to feel like you're growing as a human being, along with growing professionally. And there is a tremendous amount of correlation there, because we've always said this: your business and your professional life cannot grow past the extent that you do. But when you're limited as a human being, then of course you're always going to be limited professionally. And this is where you're constantly feeling that frustration. So I think when you surround yourself with people who empower you to be the best you can be as a human being, and allow it to play in the same space that you are in professionally, it's a pretty amazing, amazing thing. And so I think you get excited, you have renewed energy, you start trying things that you wouldn't try before, you start seeing doors open that you would have not seen before. By the way, those doors of opportunity are probably in front of you right now, but if you're stuck inside of your own head space and in a situation that doesn't allow you to grow, you're not seeing it.
Yeah.
So
or you're seeing it and you're just afraid to do it because you're afraid of the retaliation or the rejection or what people might say if you do open up that door and take the opportunity. Here's the thing too. I think what's been really fascinating about our partnership, or at least what I've experienced, is that we're not paralyzed by overthinking what might happen, what could go wrong. And in fact, I said this to you yesterday. I said, Cari, let's just try this. And even if we fail, at least we tried and we can just pivot. So imagine being in a work environment, guys, where your leader is saying to you, heck, let's just try it and fail. What's the worst that's going to happen? We're going to fail. Awesome. We'll try something else. We'll just pivot. That's what's exciting. It's just every day can be experimental. Every day there can be renewed energy. And every day we're evolving every single day. And you're just having all this collaboration and all this positive energy of very, very high level talented people coming together. And instead of saying no, that's not going to work, we're just saying, let's rethink that. How could we make that better? How can we make that better? So Cari, if someone is having questions or they want to chat more about this, how could they get in contact with us?
Yeah, so I would employ any of you to just reach out to either of us. If either of us kind of resonate with you, this is a no obligation conversation. Honestly, this is exactly what Haley was talking about. We get to wake up every day. We don't even know exactly what conversations we're going to have that day, but we always end up having a conversation that brings us some energy, some positivity, and some impact. And we know that we were able to reciprocate that in that conversation. And for that, we're just eternally grateful. Where that conversation leads, we have no idea. And the cool thing is we also don't have any expectation around that. Right. I think that's why we're having so much joy in what we're doing. There isn't an expectation. There isn't a pressure. There isn't an obligation or something we have to do. We just get to show up and see what's going to be there for us that day. So if you feel called to have a conversation because you do feel stuck, you do feel like you're like dying a little bit inside, we've both been in this situation before. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with the person you're in business with. It's just not in alignment, and it's time for you to listen to it. And sometimes just having a sound, a sounding board can make the difference, just to talk this through, and somebody who's experienced before. So all you need to do is just reach out to us. You can private message, DM either of us on Facebook. We'll go ahead and put our links below if you want to schedule a free call with us as well, because we both have links. And so we'll post it below here. Just find us on social. You can find us anywhere. And we're happy to have a conversation. Honestly, if we can help somebody become unstuck and figure out how they can actually step into their greatness, by the way, your children see it, your significant other sees it, the people in your community and family and friends see
your clients,
and it inspires them to do the same thing. I'm just telling you it does. And so you don't want the people around you to see you being stuck, seeing that you've got this light, but you're not allowing it to shine. That is not what you I mean, the second I allowed myself to do that, even though I was afraid of a lot of rejection, I realized the benefits that came with a lot of people around me, including my children. And it was one of the most rewarding things that I ever saw, but it was taking the step myself, the step that probably seemed a little bit selfish or a little bit like, okay, but I have stability here. I like this ship, but it's not really the best it can be. But why? People always say, why am I trying to always, want more? Why can't I just be happy with what is? The reality is you can be happy with what is at the same time striving for more. And the reality is we were put on the earth to strive for more. We weren't on the earth to just stay good, because otherwise we wouldn't have this energy built up on us that wants more. It's there for a reason. So we're here to talk with you about it. We'll continue the conversation. In fact, next week, I think we should tap into a little bit more of those strengths and weaknesses, because one of the things I found between you and I is that when you're in alignment and you can actually work with somebody that is in alignment in your thinking, it really does allow you to focus on your strengths so much more. And when we do that, that's when we become the best of the best. That's also when we get a lot more joy out of our work. So maybe let's talk about that next week. That'd be a good thing.
That sounds great.
All right. Thanks everybody for joining us. See you next week.